I always believed secrets could be buried, hidden beneath daily routines, polite smiles, and carefully timed text messages. I was wrong. My name is Lena. I'm 38, married to a man most women would call a dream. Ethan is successful, well-dressed, and the kind of husband who remembers anniversaries. But those women don't see the silences between us at night. They don't see me, lying awake while he works late, always working late. Always with his assistant Tracy, who's 10 years younger and not even subtle about her lipstick marks on his coffee mug. I didn't plan to betray him. It started small, a desperate need to feel seen again. Touched. Desired. My mistake wasn't the affair itself. It was forgetting how sharp eyes can lurk behind innocent faces. It was a rainy evening in October when Ryan arrived at our door, drenched, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Aunt Lena," he smiled, rainwater trickling down his neck. "Thanks for letting me stay. I'll keep out of your way." He was 22, my late sister's only child. Ethan had insisted we help him while he attended university in our city. I hadn't seen Ryan in years. The last time, he was a skinny teenager at his mother's funeral. Now he stood taller than Ethan, all sharp jawlines and knowing eyes. He looked like a man who'd seen too much, too young. For the first week, he kept to himself, headphones in, books everywhere, always polite. I almost forgot he was here. But one night, things shifted. Ethan was in Dubai on business, or so he said. I had met him, my escape, at a hotel in the next town. A few hours to feel alive again. I returned home late, hair tousled, perfume faded, heels in my hand to avoid noise. As I tiptoed into the kitchen for water, I froze. Ryan sat there, silently, in the dark. Only the glow from the fridge lit his face. I jumped. "You scared me." He didn't flinch. "Late night?" I laughed nervously. "Couldn't sleep." He glanced down at my hand. "You dropped your phone," he said, holding it out. My heart sank. The lock screen glowed with a photo, one I hadn't meant to take. A mirror selfie, half my lover's face in the background, shirtless, blurred, but unmistakable. That's just... He handed it over without a word. His eyes lingered on mine a moment too long. The silence stretched until I couldn't bear it. "You won't say anything, right?" Ryan tilted his head. "Why would I? Uncle Ethan's too busy to notice much anyway." I blinked. "I don't know what you mean." He stood up, towering above me now. "You know what's interesting about secrets?" he said, voice low. "They give you power, but they also make you vulnerable." "Ryan, please, this stays between us. I mean it." He smiled, calm, unreadable. "Of course. I'm family. I'd never hurt you." He walked past me, brushing my shoulder slightly as he went. "Sleep well, Aunt Lena." And with that, he disappeared down the hallway, leaving me breathless. For the first time in my life, I felt something worse than guilt. I felt fear. The days that followed blurred into a quiet nightmare. Ryan didn't mention the photo again. He acted as if nothing had happened, studious, polite, always helpful. But his silence felt loaded, like the tension in the air before a thunderstorm. I couldn't relax, couldn't breathe without wondering if he'd say something. To Ethan, or worse, to someone else. I tried deleting the image, covering my tracks. But I didn't know what Ryan had seen, or saved. I avoided him at first, eating meals alone, skipping breakfast, inventing errands. But he noticed. He always noticed. One afternoon, I returned from grocery shopping to find him in the living room, casually scrolling on his laptop. As I passed behind him, I glimpsed something that turned my blood cold. My photo. The one with my lover. Not. Blurry this time. Clear. Zoomed in. He hadn't just seen it. He'd kept it. I froze. Why do you still have that? He turned slowly, no guilt in his expression. Relax. It's not like I posted it anywhere. Yet. My heart pounded. Are you threatening me? He shrugged. No, I'm just saying, information is power, and right now, I have both. I clenched my jaw. You said you wouldn't hurt me. I won't, not if you cooperate. There was a sharpness to his tone that chilled me. Ryan was no longer the quiet boy I thought he was. He had stepped into something darker, something calculating, and I had given him the leverage. What do you want? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He smiled, leaned back, and looked me over. Nothing major. For now, just some honesty. No more sneaking out, no more lies. And when I ask something of you, you say yes. The words hung heavy between us. I wanted to scream, call Ethan, end it all. But I didn't, because I knew Ethan wouldn't ask why I was being blackmailed. He'd only ask what for. So I nodded, and that's when it began. At first, it was small. Ryan would tell me what to cook, what to wear, where to sit. When Ethan was home, Ryan was all charm. But when we were alone, he played puppeteer, pulling invisible strings that left me breathless with humiliation. One morning, he knocked on my door, a folded dress in his hand. Wear this today, he said. It was low cut, something Ethan had bought me years ago, but I'd never worn. Uncle will like it. I'm not doing this, I said, voice shaking. He raised an eyebrow and held up his phone, thumb hovering over the screen. That photo again. I wore the dress. Ethan noticed, complimented me even. I forced a smile, my skin crawling with shame as Ryan watched us from the dining table, silently victorious. I started dreading the sound of his footsteps. His requests became more invasive, emotional, psychological. He wanted control. Not just over my actions, but my peace of mind. I couldn't focus. I couldn't sleep. Every time my phone buzzed, I feared it was him. Every time Ethan mentioned Ryan, I fought the urge to tell him everything. But I didn't. Because I was still protecting myself. I told myself I was playing along to keep the family together, to avoid scandal, to keep Ethan from heartbreak. But the truth was simpler. I was scared. And part of me still thought I could fix it. That Ryan would get bored and stop, but he didn't. Late one night, I found myself standing outside Ryan's room. I don't know why I knocked. Maybe to beg. Maybe to reason. He opened the door shirtless, unbothered. Couldn't sleep? I stepped in, closing the door behind me. This has to stop. He sat on the bed. It stops when I say it stops. I stared at him. You're my nephew. His gaze was steady, ice cold. And you're the one who cheated, remember that. He leaned closer, voice low. If you don't want Ethan to know, you'll do exactly what I say. I backed away, my chest tightening. The boy I had welcomed into my home was gone, and something else had taken his place. By the third week, I no longer recognized the woman I had become. Every decision I made, what I wore, where I went, how I spoke, was filtered through one question. Will Ryan approve? And that question alone made me sick. I'd handed him control in a moment of fear, and now he wielded it like a knife, carving away at the person I used to be. But I wasn't broken yet. The shift began on a quiet Thursday afternoon. Ethan was out, and Ryan was in the kitchen, casually, browsing something on his phone. I sat across from him, stirring tea I had no intention of drinking. I've been thinking, I said calmly. Ryan looked up. Dangerous for someone in your position. I forced a smile. You said this stops when you say it stops. I want to know what it'll take for that to happen. He leaned back, amused. Aunt Lena, I like things just the way they are. You obey, I stay quiet. Clean, simple, controlled. But unsustainable, I countered. You're playing a game that won't end well for either of us. His smirk faded just slightly. What are you proposing? A deal, I said, maintaining eye contact. You delete everything, every photo, every video, and I give you exactly 1 week of total cooperation. After that, we go our separate ways. You move out, and this ends. He watched me carefully. You think you're in a position to bargain? I think you're smarter than you act. If this goes on, eventually someone will notice. Ethan isn't blind. He'll start asking questions, and I won't be the only one he turns on. That landed. I saw the flicker in Ryan's eyes. Hesitation. Calculation. I'll think about it, he said finally. But I didn't wait for his answer. That night, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Marla, an old friend and cybersecurity specialist. I didn't tell her everything, only that someone was threatening me with private files and I needed to secure my digital footprint. She asked no questions, just said, "Forward everything, I'll handle the rest." In parallel, I began playing Ryan's game better than he expected. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his sarcastic jokes, even complimented his choice in music. I let him believe I was still under his thumb. But I was laying a trap. By the 6th day, Marla had cloned Ryan's cloud backups, retrieved the blackmail files, and created a secure, time-triggered leak, just in case. If anything happens to you, she warned, this boy's life goes up in flames. Exactly what I needed. I waited until Sunday evening. Ryan was in the study, headphones on, watching something. I walked in and placed a glass of wine in front of him. "Peace offering?" I said sweetly. He paused his video. "That depends. What's the catch?" "No catch. Just a farewell toast." He narrowed his eyes. "You sound confident." "I am." He took the glass but didn't drink. "What changed?" "I did," I replied, "and I'm done being afraid of you." He laughed. "Are you now?" I leaned closer, voice steady. "You don't control me anymore. Everything you saved, I have copies. They're in someone else's hands. And if you so much as breathe wrong, they'll be published publicly." His smirk cracked. I continued, "It's over, Ryan. You'll pack your things and leave. Or the world sees what you've done." A long pause. Then, slowly, he stood. "You think this makes you safe?" "I don't care about safe. I care about free." He stepped closer, inches from my face. "You're playing with fire, Auntie. And you're no longer holding the match." He stared at me for a long moment, then walked past, leaving the wine untouched. "This isn't over," he muttered. But by morning, he was gone. I told Ethan I needed space, that I was overwhelmed. He didn't ask questions. He never did. I packed a bag and left. No plan, no final destination. Just the relief of air that didn't smell like fear. But freedom never comes without echoes. 2 days later, as I sat alone in a rented flat, my phone buzzed. An anonymous message. "You may have won this round, but you're not untouchable." My hands trembled. The game had ended. Or perhaps, it had only just begun.